Noah was curled on an ER bed, one hand pressed to his stomach, the other locked around my fingers. "Hurts, Dad." I brushed his hair back and told him I wasn't going anywhere. Across the hall, my wife walked past us without stopping. Vanessa wasn't here as Noah's mother tonight. She was here as the surgeon everyone stepped aside for. She was walking beside a gurney, her hand resting on the rail like she was guarding something. The man on it turned his head and smiled at me. Lucas Mercer, her ex, the man she'd once called, the one who understood her before life got practical. 2 hours earlier, Noah's pediatrician had sent us in with suspected appendicitis. The ER surgeon had been blunt. "He needs surgery tonight." Then Vanessa arrived and told a nurse to move Lucas into or 3 instead, the room that had already been assigned to our son. "Lucas has a career-threatening hand injury," she said. "Noah can wait an hour." That sentence ended my marriage. Not legally, not yet, but something in me closed quietly, for good. I confronted her in the hallway. She told me I was embarrassing myself. Lucas, still on his gurney, told me not to make this harder on her. For 12 years I would have backed down at that tone. Instead, I asked her a question she didn't expect. What was his triage priority? Who authorized the or change? I'd spent 14 years building compliance systems for hospitals. I knew exactly what an audit trail could and couldn't hide. So did she. For the first time that night, she looked careful. I started recording. She reached for my phone. I stepped back. A nurse asked if she should call administration. Vanessa said no. I said yes. When the administrator, Paul Serrano, arrived, I laid it out plainly. My son's or had been given to my wife's ex-boyfriend, and I wanted the scheduling logs preserved. Vanessa called it a family matter. I told her it had stopped being one the moment she used her badge. The patient advocate, Grace, let me finish without interruption. The first time in years anyone had chosen to hear me over her. I requested a transfer. Vanessa called it reckless. I played her back her own voice. Lucas could lose his career. Noah can wait an hour. The hallway went silent. We transferred Noah to St. Mark's by ambulance. On the way, I called my sister Claire, then my attorney, Maya Reed, then opened the medical board's complaint form and started typing. At St. Mark's, a surgeon named Dr. Shah took one look at Noah and said she wasn't comfortable waiting. He went into surgery 19 minutes later. He came out just after 1 a.m. Appendix inflamed, close to rupture, but he was going to be fine. Dr. Shah told me plainly she wouldn't have recommended any delay. Before I could feel relieved, an anonymous email landed in my inbox. A screenshot from Noah's chart. A note, time-stamped during the exact minutes I'd been in that hallway demanding surgery, read, "Parent requested additional time before consent." Vanessa hadn't just delayed our son. She'd started building a record to blame me for it. That's when Maya told me it was time to talk about emergency custody. Vanessa showed up at St. Mark's the next morning with a stuffed dinosaur and mascara she'd clearly redone twice. Noah, half asleep, asked her why Lucas was in the parking lot with her. She had no answer. He turned away from the window. She stood on the lawn like something had been cut out of her. That night, I went through our accounts. $12,000 had left our emergency savings 3 weeks earlier. Memo line. LM Private Care Deposit. Lucas Mercer. I froze the joint card, removed her from the accounts, and sat with that number for a long time. An off-duty nurse, Emily, reached out days later. She'd watched the whole thing unfold, the reassignment, the pressure Vanessa put on the attending surgeon. The note entered afterward blaming me. She gave a statement. Maya filed it. At the hospital's ethics hearing, the timeline did the talking. Lucas's text arriving at 8:09. "Push me ahead of the kid if you have to. Adrian will get over it." Vanessa's login authorizing the OR swap at 8:18. Her account entering the false note at 8:42. Lucas, under questioning, admitted he'd known exactly whose son he was bumping. Vanessa's scheduling privileges were suspended pending review. At a hospital gala weeks later, Lucas, desperate to defend his own image, told a reporter Vanessa had simply made the hard call. Maya read his own text back to him in front of the room. Security walked him out a second time, this time in front of donors and cameras. His restaurant investors dropped him within the week. At a family dinner meant to pressure me into backing down, I laid out 4 years of receipts. The in-laws' debt I'd quietly covered, Vanessa's medical school loans I'd paid off, and the $12,000 that had gone to Lucas's recovery company instead of our son. Lucas, hearing for the first time that Vanessa had let him into our house while Noah was recovering elsewhere, looked at her like he was reconsidering everything. Before he left, he told her one honest thing all night. "You told me he was weak. You were wrong. Custody court was quieter than any of it." Dr. Shah testified that delay hadn't been medically defensible. Noah's therapist explained, gently, that he wasn't angry at his mother so much as afraid of being responsible for her feelings. Under oath, Maya asked Vanessa directly whether I had ever actually asked for more time before Noah's consent. "No," she said. "The judge granted me primary custody, with Vanessa's visitation supervised and expanding only as Noah's therapist recommended. No contact with Lucas. No surprise visits. The medical board didn't end Vanessa's career, but it restricted her privileges, mandated oversight, and made her disclose the finding to any future hospital. Lucas's television deal quietly disappeared. Vanessa came to the porch one more time, alone without the armor. She admitted Lucas had lied to a reporter about never asking to be prioritized. She admitted she'd once admired how steady I was, before she started treating it as boring. She asked if I'd ever almost let her back in. "Yes," I told her honestly, for about 3 seconds, until Noah saw Lucas's car at the curb. If you're enjoying our stories, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to us and helps us create more amazing content for you. We're on a mission to reach our first 1,000 subscribers, and every single subscription brings us one step closer. Thank you for being part of our journey. She asked if I hated her. I didn't. I told her the truth instead. I just didn't trust her with my life anymore. The divorce was finalized on a rainy morning with no reporters and no family in the gallery. Just 2 people signing away a life that used to be real. Afterward, in the hallway, Vanessa told me Noah had asked her very calmly during a visit, "If Lucas called, would you leave again?" "I told him no," she said. Then I told him I understood why he didn't believe me yet. It was the first honest thing she'd said in months that didn't need correcting. That evening, Noah handed me a lopsided cardboard rocket for my office. "It might fall over," he warned. "I'll let it," I said. The next morning I drove him to school under a clear sky. At the drop-off line he asked, quietly, "If I get sick again, you'll be there?" I turned and looked at him until he was sure. Every time. He nodded, climbed out and waved from the door before he went in, believing, a little more than he had yesterday, that someone would come when he called. That was enough. "Noah is my son too. Then act like it." The words landed harder than I expected. For a second, pain crossed her face. Then pride buried it. "I'm acting like a surgeon," she said. "You're acting like a jealous husband." There it was, the old move. Turn the real issue into my insecurity. Make me defend my feelings instead of the facts. Drag me into a personal fight so she stayed in control of the room. Not this time. I pulled out my phone and opened the recorder. The red line started moving. "Say that again," I said. Her eyes dropped to the screen. "Are you recording me?" "Yes." "You don't have my consent." "We're standing in a public hallway discussing the delay of our son's emergency surgery after you gave his or to your ex-boyfriend. I'm fine letting my attorney sort out consent." Lucas's smile vanished. Vanessa reached for the phone. I stepped back. "Don't touch me," I said. The nurse by the cart edged closer, tense. "Dr. Hart, should I call administration?" Vanessa turned on her. "No." I looked at the nurse's badge, Emily. "Yes," I said. "Call administration. And the patient advocate." Vanessa's head snapped toward me. "Adrian, don't." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because of how absurd it sounded, coming from her. "Don't embarrass me. Don't question me. Don't make this public. Don't hold me accountable for what I just did behind that curtain." Noah cried out again. I left her standing there and went to him. His face was twisted, sweat gathering at his hairline. I hit the call button and kept my voice level. "We're getting you help," I told him. "I promise." "Where's Mom?" he whispered. The question hit like a fist to the ribs. Through the gap in the curtain, I could see her in the hallway with Lucas, talking urgently to a resident. She hadn't come in. "She's busy," I said. His eyes filled. I'd always believed kids should be shielded from adult ugliness, but there are moments when a lie does more damage than the truth would have. "Right now," I said. "I'm the one making sure you're taken care of." He nodded weakly and closed his eyes. A few minutes later, a hospital administrator arrived, Paul Serrano, according to his badge. He had the careful look of a man trained not to panic until the lawyers showed up. "Mr. Cole," he said, "I understand there's a concern about scheduling." "There's more than a concern," I said. "My son was assigned OR3. My wife redirected it to Lucas Mercer, her former partner. I want the scheduling log, the triage notes, and the name of whoever authorized that change preserved." Now, Vanessa stepped up behind him. "Paul, this is a family matter." "No," I said. "It stopped being a family matter the moment you used your badge." Paul looked between us. "Dr. Hart, were you involved in the reassignment?" "I provided clinical judgment," she said, chin lifted. "Were you Noah's treating surgeon?" "No." "Were you Lucas Mercer's?" Her silence went on one beat too long. From his gurney near the double doors, Lucas called out, loud enough for the hall to hear, "Can we skip the drama? My hand is killing me." I turned to him. "Then wait the way you expected my son to wait." His face hardened. Vanessa said my name like a warning. I ignored her and looked back at Paul. "I also want to know if any consent forms were entered under my name. I haven't signed anything agreeing to delay my son's care." "Mr. Cole, we can discuss this somewhere private." "No. First you find my son another surgeon, or you authorize a transfer. Then we talk." "Transferring him now is reckless," Vanessa said. "Delaying him for Lucas was reckless. His appendix hasn't ruptured. You don't know that. I'm a surgeon. And tonight you're not his mother." It was cruel. I knew it the second it left my mouth. It was also true. The color drained from her face. Paul raised both hands. "Let's slow down." "No," I said. "No more slowing down. My son's already been slowed down enough." The patient advocate arrived 10 minutes later. A woman named Grace, silver-haired, steady-voiced. She let me lay out the whole timeline without interrupting. Vanessa tried to cut in twice. Grace stopped her both times. "Dr. Hart," she said quietly, "I need you to let Mr. Cole finish." It was one sentence, but it changed the temperature of the entire hallway. For years, Vanessa had been the one people listened to at dinner parties, hospital fundraisers, rooms full of donors and board members. The brilliant surgeon, the woman who saved lives. I was the quiet husband who checked the calendar, paid the mortgage, picked Noah up from school, made sure the oil got changed in her SUV. But in that hallway, with our son shaking behind a curtain, brilliance stopped being enough. Grace turned to me. "Mr. Cole, would you like to request a transfer?" "Yes." Vanessa looked stunned. "You can't be serious." "I am. Noah belongs here. I can supervise his care." "You already supervised enough." Her eyes filled with angry tears. "You're going to risk our son to punish me." I held up my phone. "You risked him to protect Lucas." Lucas laughed again, though this time it sounded forced. "This is insane." I pressed play. Vanessa's own voice filled the hallway. Lucas could lose his career. Noah can wait an hour. Nobody moved. Paul looked at Vanessa. Grace looked at the floor. Emily, the nurse, closed her eyes for a second, like she'd been waiting for someone else to finally say what they'd all heard. "Adrian," Vanessa whispered. I stopped the recording. "That," I said, "is the last time you make a decision for our son without me." The transfer took 46 minutes. I counted every one of them. Vanessa argued with administration the whole time. Lucas was finally wheeled away, but not before he turned his head and said, almost gently, You're going to regret this. I leaned in close enough that only he could hear me. No, I said. You are. They moved Noah by ambulance to St. Mark's, across town. I rode beside him, one hand on his arm, the other on my phone. On the way, I called my sister Claire and asked her to meet us there. Then I called my attorney's emergency line, a number I'd kept saved for business contracts and never once used for anything like this. Then I opened the state medical board's website and clicked professional misconduct. I stared at the blank complaint form while the siren cut through the night. Vanessa called 6 times. I didn't answer. Instead, I uploaded the recording and wrote the first line. My wife, Dr. Vanessa Harcourt, used her hospital authority to delay our 8-year-old son's urgent surgery in order to prioritize her former romantic partner. By the time we reached St. Mark's, my hands had stopped shaking. That was the moment I knew I was done begging my wife to choose her family. From here on, I was going to make sure everyone saw exactly who she'd chosen instead. At St. Mark's, nobody cared that Vanessa was well known in surgical circles. That was the first mercy of the night. No one asked if my wife agreed. No one hesitated because Dr. Hart Cole might take offense. No one told my son to wait because some other adult had a career on the line. A pediatric surgeon named Dr. Priya Shah examined Noah within minutes. Short, brisk, direct in a way that made me trust her instantly. His abdomen's guarded, she said. Fever, elevated count, rebound tenderness. We're taking him in. How soon? As soon as anesthesia clears him. I'm not comfortable waiting. Not comfortable waiting. Words that should have been obvious hours ago. Noah looked up at me from the bed. Dad, is Mom coming? I hesitated. Dr. Shah noticed and stepped back, giving us the room without making a thing of it. That small kindness nearly undid me. She knows where we are, I said. Is she mad? She's not who I'm worried about. He tried to smile, but the pain twisted it. Are you mad? Yes, I said, but not at you. His fingers found mine again. Don't leave. I won't. They wheeled him towards surgery 19 minutes later. I walked beside the bed until the doors closed, then let myself sag against the wall. Claire got there 10 minutes after that. Ponytail half fallen, hoodie inside out, eyes wide with fear. Where is he? In surgery. God. She hugged me hard. What happened? I didn't give her the emotional version, the one where 12 years of marriage cracked open in a single night. I gave her the timeline, the ER, the surgical recommendation, Vanessa's arrival, the reassignment, Lucas, the recording, the transfer. Claire's face went still, the way it did right before she got furious. She delayed Noah's surgery. For Lucas. Yes, apparently still her Lucas. She pulled back. Tell me you reported her. I filed the initial complaint in the ambulance. Good. My phone buzzed again. Vanessa. Then another call. Then a text. You need to answer me right now. A second later. You had no right to remove him from St. Catherine's. Then, Lucas is asking why you threatened him. Are you proud of yourself? Claire saw my face and took the phone out of my hand before I could type anything back. Don't, she said. Anything you write tonight needs to sound like a judge might read it someday. That's the plan. Then let her hang herself. I almost smiled. You sound like Maya. Maya Reed was the attorney whose emergency line had already called back. She'd handled a contract dispute for my company 2 years earlier. I never imagined I'd need her for my marriage. The phone rang again, this time from an unknown number. I answered on speaker. Mr. Cole, this is Paul Serrano from St. Catherine's. Claire straightened. Yes, I said. I wanted to confirm Noah arrived safely. He's in surgery. Good. I'm glad to hear that. A pause. I knew what was coming. Regarding tonight's events, I'd like to schedule a time to discuss your concerns somewhere less stressful. My concerns are already in writing. Of course, still, these situations get emotionally charged. Misunderstandings happen. Paul, my wife said on recording that Lucas Mercer could lose his career and my son could wait an hour. Another pause. Yes, he said carefully. I understand there's a recording. There are also scheduling logs, triage notes, access records, and hallway cameras. I want all of it preserved. We'll follow standard policy. No, you'll follow legal preservation. My attorney will send a formal letter within the hour. Claire gave a silent thumbs up. Paul's voice lost its softness. I see. I also want the name of every person who touched Noah's status. Everyone who accessed his chart after I requested transfer, and every note added after 8:14 p.m. I can't disclose protected internal information over the phone. I'm not asking you to disclose it tonight. I'm telling you to preserve it. Understood. When I hung up, Claire looked at me with something caught between pride and heartbreak. Adrian, she said quietly, how long has she been like this? That question was harder than anything at the hospital, because Vanessa hadn't become this person in one night. That's the part nobody wants to admit about betrayal. It rarely arrives like a lightning strike. Usually it arrives as a pattern you keep renaming. She missed Noah's soccer games because surgeries ran late. Reasonable. She took Lucas's calls from the garage because he was going through something hard. Compassionate. She wore the necklace he'd given her to a charity dinner because it matched her dress. Harmless. She called me insecure when I asked why he texted her after midnight. Immature. She pulled from our emergency savings to help an old friend and called me cold for questioning it. Generous. I'd accepted every explanation, because a marriage without trust turns into a courtroom. Tonight, she'd turned it into one anyway. Long enough, I said, before Claire could ask again. My phone lit up, a video message from Vanessa. I played it without thinking. Her face filled the screen. She was in what looked like a hospital office, still in scrubs, hair loosening from its knot. Angry, but underneath it, shaken. Adrian, you've taken this too far. I understand you were scared. I understand Noah was in pain. But you don't get to weaponize my profession because you feel threatened by Lucas. Claire muttered unbelievable under her breath. Vanessa kept going. I need you to withdraw whatever complaint you filed before it becomes formal. We can talk about this privately, but if you damage my reputation, you damage this family. You damage Noah's future. Think about that before you do something you can't undo. The video ended. I stared at the dark screen. Damage this family. Not one word about the damage she'd already done. No apology to Noah. No fear for the son still under anesthesia, just fear for her name. Claire let out a long breath. Send that to Maya. I will. I forwarded it. Maya called 8 minutes later. Adrian. First, how's your son? In surgery. I'm sorry. I mean that. A beat. Second, do not speak to Vanessa alone. Not tonight, not tomorrow. Everything in writing, everything recorded where it's legal to or through counsel. Understood? Understood. I'm drafting a preservation letter to St. Catherine's right now, and I want you to send me every message from Vanessa and anything Lucas has sent or said. I have the hallway recording. Good. Back it up to cloud storage and send it to me. Already done. Third, financial access. Does Vanessa have access to your son's education account? Yes. Remove it tonight, if the account terms allow. She never even uses it. She used your emergency savings for Lucas, didn't she? I went quiet. Maya's voice softened. I read patterns for a living. I don't know that it was for him. Find out. After we hung up, I opened the banking app. I'd managed our accounts for years. Vanessa hated dealing with bills, spent easily, apologized rarely, and I'd built a whole system that quietly absorbed it. Mortgage from my account. Groceries from the joint one. Her SUV payment from mine. Noah's school fees from his education fund. Monthly payments toward her parents' debt consolidation plan, because, as Vanessa liked to say, they're family now. The emergency savings account was down $12,000, moved out 3 weeks earlier. Memo line, LM Private Care Deposit. LM. Lucas Mercer. Something in me went very still. Claire looked over my shoulder. Tell me that doesn't mean what I think it means. I pulled up the transfer details. Initiated by Vanessa Hartcole. Destination. Mercer Recovery Services, LLC. I took screenshots. Then I removed her access from the account, changed the login password, and froze the joint credit card we used for large household expenses. A text came in within seconds. Did you just freeze the card? I didn't answer. Another one. Adrian, this is childish. I need that card for hospital parking and Lucas's prescriptions. Claire made a sound of pure disgust. I screenshotted that one too, then replied with a single line. Our son is in surgery. Don't contact me about Lucas again. 3 minutes of nothing. Then you're making me choose. I looked at those 4 words for a long time. Not because they hurt, because of what they revealed. A mother shouldn't have needed to choose in the first place. The surgeon came out at 1:17 a.m. Dr. Shah pulled her mask down. Noah's out. His appendix was inflamed, close to perforation. You were right to transfer when you did. My legs nearly gave out. Claire grabbed my arm. He's going to be okay? I asked. He'll need antibiotics and monitoring. But yes, he's going to be fine. I nodded once. Couldn't get words out. Her expression shifted slightly. Mr. Cole, I don't want to speak out of turn, but given his condition, I wouldn't have recommended a non-clinical delay. Thank you, I said. Can you put that in his discharge record when it's appropriate? She studied me for a second, then nodded. I can document my clinical findings. That's all I need to do. After she left, I sank into the waiting room chair. Noah would live. That fact should have filled the whole room the whole night. Instead, it made the betrayal sharper, because if we'd waited another hour, another 2, if Lucas's hand had taken longer to treat, if Vanessa had kept control of that room a little longer, this could have ended a different way. My phone buzzed. An email from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line, St. Catherine's audit screenshot. One sentence in the body. You didn't get this from me. Check the consent timestamp. Attached was a screenshot from the internal system, Noah's name, his patient ID, and a note. Parent requested additional time before consent. Entered under Vanessa's login. Timestamp, 8:42 p.m. My blood went cold. At 8:42, I'd been in that hallway demanding a transfer. I had never asked for more time. Vanessa hadn't just delayed our son. She'd started building a paper trail to blame me for it. Adrian, Claire whispered. I forwarded the screenshot to Maya, then stood and looked down the hall toward recovery, where my son was waking up. Vanessa had made a mistake choosing Lucas, but she'd made an enemy the moment she tried to make me the reason Noah waited. Noah woke at 2:06 a.m., dry-mouthed, glassy-eyed, wearing the brave little frown he got whenever he was trying not to cry. Did they fix it? He whispered. I leaned over the bed. They fixed it. Can I go home? Not yet. Dr. Shah wants to keep an eye on you a bit longer. He blinked slowly. Is Mom here? Claire looked away. I kept my voice gentle. Not right now. His eyes closed, then opened again. She stayed with Lucas. I didn't know how to answer that. There are wounds adults make and then hope their kids are too young to notice, but kids always understand being chosen. They understand absence. They understand exactly when the person who was supposed to be beside them was somewhere else instead. Here's the continuation. She made a bad choice tonight, I said. Noah stared at the ceiling. Am I less important than his hand? The question hollowed me out. No, I said, and my voice cracked on it, cleared my throat. Noah, listen to me. You are not less important than anyone. Not to me. Never. A tear slid into his hairline. I wiped it away with my thumb. I'm sorry, he whispered. For what? For making everyone fight. I pressed my forehead against his hand. You didn't make anyone fight. Grown-ups are responsible for what grown-ups do. He nodded a little, but I could tell he didn't believe it yet. That was one more thing Vanessa would have to answer for, not to me. To him. 4:30 in the morning. Once Noah was finally asleep, I stepped into the hallway and called Maya again. She picked up on the second ring. Talk to me. I told her about the audit screenshot. Forwarded. Yes. Original email? Saved. Don't contact the sender. Don't try to find out who they are. If it's hospital staff, The way we protect them is by not dragging them into an informal conversation. Understood. Now listen carefully. That note is a real problem. If she entered something false implying you delayed consent, she may have built a defensive medical record after the fact. That changes everything. It already changed for me. I know. Her voice softened for half a second, then went back to business. I'm filing the preservation letter within 30 minutes. And I'm going to recommend you file for emergency temporary custody. I looked through the glass at Noah's sleeping face. Because of the medical decision? Because Vanessa may have put him at risk and then falsified the record to cover it. The court is going to care about that. She's still his mother. Yes, and you're still his father. It's not your job to protect Vanessa from consequences. Your job is to protect Noah from being used again. Again. The word sat there like a stone. Do it, I said. By sunrise, Vanessa showed up at St. Mark's. I saw her before she saw me. Stepping off the elevator in a cream coat over her scrubs, hair washed and smooth now, face pale but composed, a stuffed dinosaur from the gift shop tucked under one arm. For one unwanted second, I saw the woman I'd married. Vanessa at 27, exhausted after residency interviews, asleep on my shoulder. Vanessa laughing in our first tiny apartment because the radiator sounded like a dying train. Vanessa crying the day Noah was born, whispering we made him. Then she looked past me toward his room and the first thing out of her mouth was, "How much have you told him?" The memory dissolved. I stepped into her path. He asked where you were. What did you say? The truth. Her eyes sharpened. He's 8. Then you should have thought of that before you gave his operating room to Lucas. Keep your voice down. No. She glanced toward the nurse's station. Adrian, I came to see my son. He's asleep. I'm his mother. Last night you were Lucas's surgeon. Her hand tightened around the dinosaur. That's unfair. I laughed once without any humor in it. Unfair was Noah asking me if he mattered less than Lucas's hand. Something in her face cracked. He said that. Yes. I never wanted him to feel that way. But you were willing to let him wait that way. His condition was stable when I made that call. Dr. Shah disagrees. Her jaw tightened at the name. Dr. Shah didn't see him at St. Catherine's. She saw what your delay nearly turned into. Vanessa's voice dropped. You need to withdraw the board complaint. I just looked at her. She stepped closer. I'm serious, Adrian. You have no idea what you've started. Once that process begins, it follows me forever. Good. Her eyes went wide. Good? You entered a note saying I asked for more time before consent. The color left her face. Not confusion. Not surprise. Fear. Where did you hear that? She asked. That's what you're worried about? Did you enter that note? She glanced toward the nurse's station again. I shifted, just enough to block her view. Look at me. Her voice dropped further. I was trying to protect everyone. No, you were trying to protect yourself. It was chaos, the transfer, you yelling, administration asking questions. I never asked for more time. You were refusing care at St. Catherine's. I was refusing your delay. You moved him first. After you moved Lucas. Her mouth pressed into a thin line. You don't understand how hospitals work. That's your favorite thing to get wrong about me. For years, Vanessa had treated my work like a footnote. If someone at a party asked what I did, she'd answer before I could, Adrian works with software, and steer the conversation back toward surgery. Then she'd steer things back to surgery, charity boards, hard cases, the world of brilliant people making life and death decisions. She forgot that software remembers what people try to hide. I know exactly how audit trails work, I said. I know when a note gets entered. I know when it's edited. I know whose login touched it. And I know a preservation letter freezes the whole system before anyone gets the chance to clean it up. Real fear crossed her face now. Who sent you something? She whispered. I smiled without any warmth in it. You should worry less about who sent it, and more about why someone felt like they had to. The elevator opened behind her. Lucas stepped out. Black sling. an expensive gray coat over his shoulders, bandaged left hand, 2 coffees in his right. The sight of him walking into my son's hospital like he belonged there burned away whatever soft edge I had left. Vanessa spun around. "Lucas, you shouldn't be here. You weren't answering." I looked at the coffees. One was clearly for her. "She's been through hell," Lucas said, glancing at me. Claire stepped out of Noah's room before I could respond. "Her son is in a hospital bed." Lucas's smile faltered. "I didn't mean—" "You never do," Claire said. Vanessa moved toward him. "Please leave." She didn't say it like a woman disgusted by him. She said it like a woman afraid of what he might do next. He ignored her and looked at me. "You filed a complaint against her. That's low." I stepped closer. "You want to talk about low? In a pediatric recovery ward?" He leaned in. "You know your problem? You think being steady makes you important. It doesn't. Vanessa saves people. I create things people care about. You manage paperwork." "Lucas, stop," Vanessa whispered. He kept going. "Last night, she chose the patient who mattered most in the moment. That's what great surgeons do." "Did you just call yourself more important than an 8-year-old? Claire asked. He realized, a beat too late, how that sounded. I took out my phone. "Please, continue." His eyes narrowed. "Still recording?" "Always. Around you." Vanessa grabbed his arm. "Go." He looked genuinely irritated now. "After everything I've been through." I laughed. "You cut your hand. I could have lost my career. My son could have lost his life." The hallway seemed to shrink around us. A nurse walked over. "Is there a problem?" "Yes," I said. "This man isn't family. He has no reason to be anywhere near my son's room." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "Vanessa invited me." I looked at her. She didn't deny it. That silence did more damage than a confession would have. I turned back to the nurse. "Have security escort him out." "You're serious?" Lucas scoffed. "Completely." Vanessa grabbed my sleeve. "Don't make a scene." I looked down at her hand until she let go. "The scene started the moment you brought your ex to our son's hospital." Security came fast. St. Mark's had no soft spot for Lucas Mercer. They asked him to leave. He argued. They asked again. Before he walked off, he turned to Vanessa and said, "I hope you see what he's doing to you." There it was again, to you. Not a word about what he'd helped her do to Noah while he was gone. Vanessa's eyes filled. "You humiliated me. I protected our son. You're enjoying this." "No," I said. "I'm documenting it." Her expression shifted. "What does that mean?" "It means Maya's filing for emergency temporary custody today." The stuffed dinosaur slipped out of her hand and hit the floor. "You wouldn't." "I already did. He's my son. Then you should have chosen him first." She slapped me. The sound cracked down the hallway. Claire gasped. The nurse froze. Vanessa looked as shocked as anyone, like her own hand had acted without her. I touched my cheek slowly. For a strange second, I felt nothing at all. Then I looked at the nurse. "Please document that." Vanessa covered her mouth. "Adrian, I'm not coming into Noah's room until there's a visitation agreement in place. You can't keep me from him. I can keep the chaos from him. Adrian, please." The first please of the morning came too late. My phone buzzed. A text from Maya. Preservation letter sent. Emergency petition drafted. Also check your email. St. Catherine's Legal responded faster than expected. I opened it. The first line slowed my pulse. St. Catherine's Medical Center acknowledges receipt of your preservation request regarding the care of minor patient Noah Cole and related surgical scheduling records involving Lucas Mercer. Related surgical scheduling records. They'd named Lucas. Vanessa saw the screen and went still. The first time since I'd met her that I'd seen her go completely still. My wife looked like a surgeon standing over a patient she couldn't save. Here's the continuation. Only this time, the thing dying wasn't a body. It was the life she'd assumed I'd never have the nerve to walk away from. By the time Noah was discharged 3 days later, Vanessa had called 87 times. I didn't answer once. She texted apologies, then accusations, then apologies again. The pattern was so predictable it almost looked rehearsed. I was scared for Lucas. That doesn't mean I don't love Noah. You're letting Maya poison you against me. My parents are devastated. You owe them a conversation. Please don't do this to our family. Around noon on Friday, her mother called. Linda Hart had never liked me. She liked what I provided. The house with the guest suite she used whenever things got stressful. The monthly transfer that kept her and her husband afloat on their debt consolidation plan. The SUV I kept maintained so Vanessa could drive something surgeon-appropriate. The private school tuition that gave Linda bragging rights at church. Me, personally, I was the quiet man who was useful right up until he had an opinion. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was one long sigh. Adrian, this has gone far enough. Vanessa is under unbearable pressure. You know how intense her work is. We're having dinner tonight, 7 o'clock. You need to come. Bring Noah if he's up for it, and we'll settle this like a family. No more lawyers. Don't embarrass us. I played it for Maya. She laughed once, dry, no humor in it. They invited you to a pressure campaign. Yes. Are you going? Yes. Why? Because they still think I'm the one who pays for dinner. Pause. I'm not bringing Noah. Good. I'm bringing documents. Better. The Harts lived in a brick colonial in Westbrook, in a neighborhood they couldn't actually afford and refused to leave. The mortgage had been refinanced twice. The credit cards were a disaster. The kitchen renovation Linda liked to call a gift from her husband had actually been paid for by a personal loan I'd co-signed. After Vanessa cried in our bedroom about her parents losing face, I got there at 6:57 with a folder under my arm. Linda opened the door before I even rang, wearing pearls and a wounded expression. Where's Noah? Recovering. He should be with his mother. He should have been in surgery on time. Her mouth tightened. Come in. The dining room was already full. Vanessa sat at the far end, pale, beautiful in a navy sweater, eyes swollen like she'd been crying for days. Her father, Richard, sat beside her with a glass of bourbon. Her younger brother, Mason, leaned back with his arms crossed, looking like he was here for the entertainment. And Lucas Mercer sat 2 seats down from Vanessa. No sling anymore. That told me plenty on its own. Linda caught me looking at him. Lucas is involved. That's one word for it, I said. Vanessa stood. I didn't know he was coming. Lucas gave her a wounded look. Your mother invited me. She said I deserved to be heard, too. I looked at Linda. You invited the man my wife delayed our son's surgery for, to a family dinner about our marriage. She lifted her chin. I invited the man you threatened and humiliated in public. Good, I said. That makes tonight efficient. Mason snorted. You hear that? Bringing the office voice. I sat down without being asked. Nobody served food. Apparently that wasn't the point of the evening. Richard cleared his throat. Adrian, you need to drop this legal nonsense. Vanessa made a medical call. You got emotional, understandable. But filing complaints, threatening custody, freezing accounts, that's not how a husband behaves. I opened the folder and pulled out the first sheet. Before we talk about how a husband behaves, let's talk about how a grandfather behaves. Richard frowned. Excuse me? I slid the paper across the table. That's a record of every payment I've made toward your debt consolidation plan over the last 4 years. Totals $86,400. Linda's face changed. Mason leaned forward. What the hell is that supposed to mean? It means your parents have been living on my money while calling me dramatic for protecting my son. Adrian, don't, Vanessa whispered. I pulled out another sheet. This is the home equity payment I covered when Linda told Vanessa the bank was about to start foreclosure. Linda's pearls shifted as she swallowed. And this, I said, laying down a third page, is the credit card payoff from last Christmas. After Mason ran up Richard's card on what he called a business course and what the statement called sports betting, Mason shot to his feet. Here's the continuation. You son of a... Sit down, Richard snapped. Mason didn't sit, but he stopped moving. Lucas gave a faint smile. Money doesn't make you right. No, I said. Evidence does. I turned to him. Since you're here, let's talk about you. His smile faded. I pulled out a screenshot. 3 weeks ago, Vanessa transferred $12,000 from our emergency savings into Mercer Recovery Services, LLC. Lucas glanced at Vanessa. She closed her eyes. Linda looked genuinely confused. What is Mercer Recovery Services? Lucas's private care company, I said. Apparently my son's emergency fund was good enough for Lucas, right up until his hand became the emergency. I was going to replace it, Vanessa said, her voice shaking. With what money? She didn't have an answer. Mason laughed bitterly. So that's what this is really about. You're mad she helped somebody else. I looked at him. My son was in surgery because your sister delayed him for the man she secretly paid with our emergency fund. If your best defense is that I'm mad, congratulations, you finally understood something. Linda slapped the table. Enough. Vanessa is a surgeon. Do you have any idea how many lives she's saved? What kind of stress she carries? And you, Adrian, you sit behind a computer and act like you understand sacrifice. Something about that old insult, dressed up as maternal outrage, actually made me calm. I looked at Vanessa. Did you ever tell them who paid off your medical school loans during fellowship? Her eyes opened. Linda frowned. What? No, I said quietly. Of course you didn't. Please. Vanessa's mouth trembled. I set the loan payoff record on the table. When Vanessa's deferment ended, she was drowning. We were newly married. Noah wasn't born yet. She cried because she thought it would derail her surgical track. So I cashed out my stock options and paid the balance. Richard picked up the page. His face went slack. $142,000. You're welcome, I said. No one spoke. Lucas shifted in his seat. Vanessa stared at the table. For the first time in 12 years, Linda actually looked embarrassed. But embarrassment isn't remorse. You're trying to make us feel indebted, she said. No, I said. I'm ending the debt. I pulled the last document from the folder. Effective today, I'm stopping all voluntary payments toward your household expenses. I'm removing Vanessa as an authorized user on my cards. I'm closing the joint household card. Her SUV payment becomes her responsibility next month. And since the house is my premarital property, my attorney will be sending notice for her to vacate while custody terms get worked out. Vanessa's head snapped up. You're kicking me out of our home? My home, I said. The one you brought Lucas into while Noah was staying at my sister's. Her face went white. Lucas's eyebrows lifted. That detail clearly interested him. You went to the house? Not now, Vanessa said quickly. I looked between them. He hadn't known. Lucas leaned back. Interesting. For the first time all night, Vanessa looked more afraid of him than of me. Linda stood. You cannot throw my daughter out. I'm not throwing her anywhere. I'm telling her the free ride's over. Richard rubbed his forehead. Adrian, we can work this out. No, Richard. You can work. That'd be a start. Mason lunged around the table. You think you can talk to my father like that? I didn't move. Touch me, I said. And I'll add assault to tonight's list. He stopped close enough that I could smell the bourbon on his breath. Lucas laughed softly. You're really enjoying this power trip. I turned my phone toward the room and hit play. His own voice, from the hospital hallway, filled the space. Last night she chose the patient who mattered most in the moment. That's what great surgeons do. Linda sank back into her chair. Richard stared at Lucas. Mason's anger drained out of him. Vanessa covered her face. I stopped the recording. That's the man you invited here to defend your daughter. The one who thought his hand mattered more than your grandson's appendix. Lucas stood. That was taken out of context. Great, I said. Explain the context. He looked around the room. Nobody stepped in to save him. Lucas, maybe you should go, Vanessa said quietly. He stared at her. Seriously. Then his expression hardened. You let him turn everyone against me. I almost laughed at the irony. He grabbed his coat and headed for the door. Before he left, he looked back at her one more time. "You told me he was weak," he said. "You were wrong." The door slammed. It was the first honest thing Lucas Mercer had said to me all night. Vanessa started crying quietly into her hands. Here's the continuation. Linda reached for her hand. Vanessa pulled away. "Adrian," she said, "I made a terrible mistake." "No," I said. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is burning dinner. You made a choice. Then you made a record to blame me for it." Richard looked at her sharply. "What record?" Vanessa said nothing. Linda's face changed again. "Vanessa." I stood and gathered the folder. "The hospital review is next week. The custody hearing follows. All communication goes through my attorney from here on." Vanessa stood too fast, her chair scraping the floor. "You can't just leave." I looked around the dining room I'd helped pay to renovate, at the parents who'd mistaken my support for weakness, at the brother-in-law whose gambling debts I'd quietly cleaned up, at my wife, who'd finally understood that the man she'd dismissed knew exactly where every receipt was buried. "I already did," I said. Outside, the air was cold. My phone buzzed just as I reached the car. A message from an unknown number. "This is Emily from St. Catherine's. I need to tell you what I saw before the review." Dr. Hart changed more than one note. I stood under my in-laws' porch light and read it twice, then looked back at the glowing dining room windows. They thought dinner had been the reckoning. They had no idea it was only the appetizer. Emily didn't want to meet at the hospital. "I don't trust the walls there," she said, calling from a blocked number, her voice low and a little shaky. "I know that sounds paranoid." "It doesn't," I said. We met the next morning at a coffee shop 2 blocks from St. Catherine's. Claire came with me, not because I was afraid of Emily, but because Maya had been clear about it. No private meetings alone with witnesses. Not anymore. Emily showed up in jeans and a gray sweatshirt, looking younger without her badge on. She kept both hands wrapped around her coffee and checked the window twice before she spoke. "I shouldn't be doing this," she said. "Then why are you?" She swallowed. "Because I heard your son crying. That alone was enough to make me go quiet. I have a nephew his age. And I watched Dr. Hart walk past him like he was a chart she'd get back to later." Claire's jaw tightened. Emily slid a folded paper across the table. "I can't give you official records, but I wrote down what I personally saw while it was still fresh, times, names, who said what. I didn't touch it right away. Maya will need to handle this properly." "Good," Emily said, "because they're already trying to spin it as a scheduling misunderstanding." "Who's they?" "Risk management. Legal. Dr. Hart's department chair. They keep using words like miscommunication and emotional family dynamics." I almost smiled. Hospitals always had soft words for hard failures. "What did you actually see?" I asked. She took a breath. "Noah was marked urgent but stable at 7:58. Assigned 2 or 3 at 8:06, pending final consent and anesthesia. Dr. Hart arrived at 8:11. Lucas Mercer was already in trauma bay 2. His injury was serious, but he wasn't unstable. He was awake, joking, asking whether the scar would affect filming. Claire muttered something under her breath. At 8:14, Emily went on. "Dr. Hart told Dr. Benson, the surgeon originally assigned to Noah, that she'd handle prioritization because of a conflict in or availability. He looked uncomfortable, but she outranked him in that moment. Was she even on call? Not for peds. Not for Noah. She had privileges, but she had no business directing her own child's case. And Lucas's repair could have waited for a specialized hand surgeon. It was urgent, not immediate. That's what Dr. Benson said." "Did he document that?" Her eyes flicked up. "He tried. The note disappeared." Claire leaned in. "Notes can just disappear?" "Not officially, but they can be amended, buried under an addendum, superseded. The audit trail shows it either way." I nodded. "And Vanessa changed Noah's record." Emily's face tightened. "At 8:42, right after you demanded the transfer, she entered the note about the parent requesting more time. At 8:49, a second one, Father expressed distrust in surgical team. I closed my eyes. Father expressed distrust. She'd been building a portrait. The irrational father, the emotional husband, the jealous man interfering with care. I'm sorry, Emily said quietly. I opened my eyes. Don't be. You're helping my son. She blinked fast, then nodded. Maya filed Emily's statement along with the preservation demand that afternoon. By evening, St. Catherine's had requested a preliminary review meeting. Maya's reply was short. My client will attend with counsel. All discussions will be recorded. No informal resolution is authorized. Vanessa texted me within 10 minutes. You found a nurse to lie for you. I stared at it in disbelief. Then another one. Do you understand what happens if this goes forward? I could lose my surgical privileges. I typed back one line. Me? Noah could have lost his life. She didn't respond. The preliminary review happened the following Tuesday, in a glass-walled conference room at St. Catherine's. It wasn't a courtroom, but everyone had dressed like it might become one. Maya sat beside me, tablet open, relaxed. Across the table, Paul Serrano, a hospital attorney named Denise Park, Dr. Malcolm Keene, the surgical department chair, and Vanessa. She wore a dark suit instead of scrubs, hair pulled back tightly, shadows under her eyes. She didn't look at me when I walked in. That hurt less than I expected it to. Denise opened with a professional smile. Mr. Cole. First, the hospital is glad Noah is recovering. Thank you, I said. We understand the evening was frightening. Our goal today is to clarify events and determine whether there was any actual deviation from policy. Actual is an interesting word, Maya said. Denise's smile tightened. Counselor, we're here in good faith. Then we'll do well. Dr. Keene folded his hands. Adrian, I've known Vanessa for years. She's an excellent surgeon. I'm sure Lucas agrees, I said. Vanessa flinched. Maya laid a hand lightly on the table, a quiet signal to let her work. Denise opened a folder. The hospital's preliminary position is that multiple urgent cases created a scheduling conflict. Dr. Hart offered clinical input. The ultimate transfer decision was made by you. After the delay, Maya said. After a disagreement about appropriate timing. Maya tapped her tablet. Let's call it what the record calls it. Or 3 was assigned to Noah Cole at 8:06 p.m. It was reassigned to Lucas Mercer at 8:18 p.m. Correct? Denise glanced at Paul. That appears accurate, he said. Who authorized the reassignment? That's still under review. Maya turned her tablet toward them. The audit export your office produced this morning says Dr. Hart's login. Vanessa finally looked at me, not pleading this time, angry. Context matters, she said. It does, Maya said. Let's add some. She played the recording. Lucas could lose his career. Noah can wait an hour. Vanessa closed her eyes. Dr. Keene's expression hardened. We'd object to characterizing that statement without clinical context, Denise said. Then provide some, Maya said. What clinical context makes a surgeon's ex-boyfriend's career more relevant than her own son's surgical timing? Silence. Paul shifted in his seat. Maya kept going. At 8:42, Dr. Hart entered a note stating the parent had requested additional time before consent. Mr. Cole never requested additional time. He requested immediate surgery or transfer. Does the hospital dispute that? We're investigating, Denise said. Good. Investigate this too. Maya slid printed copies across the table. A bank transfer, $12,000. From our emergency savings to Mercer Recovery Services, LLC. Vanessa's face drained of color. Denise picked up the page. I don't see how personal finances are relevant here. Dr. Hart had a recent undisclosed financial involvement with Lucas Mercer's care, Maya said. Then she prioritized his surgical access over her own child's. If you don't see the relevance, the medical board will. Dr. Keene turned to Vanessa. Is this true? Her voice was tight. It was a temporary loan. From our son's emergency fund, I said. Her eyes snapped to mine. It wasn't labeled that way. It was where we kept money for emergencies. Our child's emergency came. The money was already gone. Let's stay focused, Denise said, raising a hand. I am focused, I said. Maya leaned forward. We've also received a witness statement from a nurse who observed Dr. Hart directing the or reassignment, dismissing concerns about the pediatric delay, and later entering notes inconsistent with Mr. Cole's actual conduct. Something shifted, almost imperceptibly, in Denise's face. Name? Not in this room, Maya said. Not until formal protections are in place. Dr. Keene looked genuinely unhappy. This is more serious than I was led to believe. I looked at Vanessa. She looked away. That told me everything. She tried to frame the narrative before the meeting even started. Emotional husband. Jealous over an ex-misunderstood surgeon. But evidence doesn't care who sounds more respectable. Paul cleared his throat. Given what's been presented, Dr. Keene said, the hospital will expand its internal review. And Dr. Hart's scheduling privileges, Maya added. Denise stiffened. That's an internal employment matter. It became my client's matter the moment she used them on his son. Dr. Keene exhaled. Pending review, Dr. Hart will not participate in emergency prioritization. Vanessa's head snapped up. Here's the continuation. Malcolm. He didn't look at her. Pending review. There it was, the first real institutional consequence. Not final. Not enough. But real. Vanessa stared at him like he'd betrayed her. I almost wanted to tell her the feeling was familiar. The meeting ended in careful language and no apology. Maya gathered her things. I stood. Vanessa followed us into the hallway. Adrian. Maya paused beside me. Vanessa looked at her. Can I speak to my husband alone? No, Maya said pleasantly. Vanessa's eyes filled. I'm not a monster. No one said you were, I said. Monsters are simple. You're worse. You knew exactly what you were risking. She swallowed. I thought Noah had time. You thought I'd absorb the cost if you were wrong. Her tears spilled over. I was scared Lucas would never forgive me. I just stared at her. That sentence was worse than the first one because it was honest. You were more afraid of losing Lucas's approval than losing your son's trust. She covered her mouth. I stepped back. Maya will send the notice about the house. She blinked. What notice? You need to move out. The grief on her face turned to panic. Adrian, that's our home. It was my home before you. It became ours because I trusted you in it. I have nowhere to go. Lucas has a recovery company. Ask him. She recoiled like I'd slapped her. I didn't wait around for a response. Maya and I headed for the elevators. My phone buzzed. Claire had sent a photo. Vanessa and Lucas on my front porch 2 nights earlier, caught by the doorbell camera. His good arm around her waist. Her face turned into his shoulder. Underneath it, Claire had written, FYI, you already changed the locks. I glanced back down the hallway. Vanessa stood alone outside the conference room, still crying. There was a time when watching her cry would have softened me instantly. Now all I saw was another scene she was hoping would work. Changing the locks turned out to be a lot less dramatic than people imagine. No thunder, no swelling music, no big speech in the rain. Just a locksmith named Arturo kneeling at my front door at 9:15 in the morning, while Noah watched cartoons inside with Claire and asked if he could have applesauce. Rough divorce? Arturo asked casually, tightening a screw. Something like that. He nodded like he'd seen every flavor of human disappointment come through a deadbolt. Keypad 2. Yeah. New code. I started to give him Noah's birthday backward, then changed my mind. Actually, make it random. Arturo grinned. Learning fast. By noon, the house felt different. Not better yet. Just different. Vanessa's shoes were still lined up in the mudroom. Her surgical journal still sat on the coffee table. The framed photo from our 10th anniversary still hung over the fireplace. Her laughing at something Noah had said. Me looking at her like she'd hung the moon. I took the photo down and put it in a drawer. Noah noticed from the couch. Are you mad at the picture? I sat down beside him carefully. No. Then why'd you take it down? Because sometimes pictures remind people of things that hurt. He thought about that. Can we keep the one from the aquarium? Of course. In that one, Mom was happy with us. With us. I put an arm around him gently, careful of his stitches. We can keep that one. At 2:34 that afternoon, Vanessa showed up. The doorbell camera alerted my phone before she even reached the porch. She looked exhausted. No makeup, hair loose, one suitcase behind her. She punched in the old code. The keypad flashed red. She tried again. Red again. Then she looked straight into the camera. "Adrian," she said, "open the door." I told Noah to stay with Claire and went out through the side door. She turned, startled. "You changed the locks." "Yes. You changed the locks on my house." "My house." Her face tightened. "Are we really doing this?" "We started doing this when you brought Lucas here while Noah was recovering somewhere else. I was upset." "He drove you home?" "He had his arm around me because I was crying." "You cry a lot around men who aren't your husband." She flinched. "That was cruel." "So was making our son wait." Her eyes filled instantly. "I know. God, Adrian, I've replayed that night 1,000 times. I made the wrong call." "You made several." I panicked. "No, Vanessa. You prioritized." She looked past me toward the window. "Is Noah inside?" "Yes. I need to see him." "He doesn't want visitors today." "I'm not a visitor. Legally. Until the temporary order is decided, you're his mother with disputed access, following a medical incident. Maya sent you the proposed visitation terms." Her mouth fell open. "You're talking to me like I'm dangerous." I didn't answer. That was answer enough. She took a step back. "You really believe that?" "I believe Noah asked if he mattered less than Lucas's hand." Her tears spilled over. "Stop saying that." "No. You don't get to be protected from the sentence he has to live with." She pressed both hands to her face. For a second she looked so broken that some old instinct rose up in me. The urge to open the door, tell her we'd figure it out, take the suitcase, make tea, smooth the disaster over with sheer routine. Then my phone buzzed. A reminder from Maya. Do not let her enter without a written agreement. Property access can turn into a possession argument. Stay calm. I stayed calm. I picked up an envelope off the bench by the door and handed it to her. "What is this?" "Notice from Maya. Temporary occupancy terms. A list of personal items already packed in the garage. You can schedule pickup through council." "You packed my things?" "Claire packed the essentials. Clothes, toiletries, your charger, your medical license documents. Everything else gets inventoried." "This is insane." "No. This is organized." Her eyes flashed. "You always do this. Make everything sound reasonable while you're punishing me." For 12 years, I made unreasonable things look stable. That stopped her. I kept going. Your parents' debt. Mason's gambling. Your late nights with Lucas. The contempt whenever I asked a question. The spending. The missed dinners. The apologies that made me do all the repair work afterward. I made all of it look like a marriage. That's not fair. Neither was our son waiting. She looked away, toward the street, where a black car sat at the curb. Lucas's car. I laughed softly. She followed my gaze and closed her eyes. "He just gave me a ride." "Of course he did. He never has to start anything. You start it for him." The driver's door opened. Lucas stepped out in sunglasses, like he was dodging paparazzi in a suburb where nobody cared who he was. His bandage was smaller now. He leaned against the car. "Everything okay?" he called out. I looked at Vanessa. "You brought him to my house." Again. "I didn't have anyone else." "You had a husband. You chose him." Lucas walked closer. "Man, this is getting pathetic." "Lucas, stay out of it," Vanessa said. He ignored her. "She's going through enough. You got her suspended from emergency scheduling. You froze her cards. Now you're locking her out. What kind of man does that?" "The kind who learns." He smiled. "Learns what?" "That he can't hold onto a woman like Vanessa by managing bank accounts." "Stop talking. Vanessa snapped. Something in her voice actually made him look at her. I pulled my phone out. Recording again? Lucas sighed. The doorbell camera already is. His smile disappeared. I looked at Vanessa. Maya's going to love that he drove you here after being named in the complaint. Her face went pale. Adrian, please don't make this worse. I'm not making anything. I'm preserving what you keep choosing. Lucas stepped toward the porch. You think paperwork makes you untouchable. I glanced at the property line, then back at him. Step onto my porch and I'll call the police. He stopped. For all the charm and the expensive coats, Lucas wasn't actually brave. He liked borrowed power, Vanessa's power, hospital power, social power. He didn't like a clear line. I just want to talk to Noah, Vanessa whispered. From inside, Noah's voice, Dad. Vanessa froze. The front window was cracked open. Noah stood behind the curtain, small and pale in his oversized hoodie. Baby, Vanessa said, stepping toward the window. He didn't move closer. Noah, I'm so sorry, she said, her voice breaking. He looked from Lucas to her. Why is he here? Vanessa opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Lucas shifted, uncomfortable. Noah's face crumpled. You picked him again. No, sweetheart. No, I didn't, Vanessa said, like something had cut into her. Noah turned away from the window. Claire appeared behind him and guided him gently back inside. Vanessa stood on the lawn with one hand pressed to her chest. For once, I didn't need to say a word. Our son had already said it for me. This is manipulative, Lucas muttered. You should leave before the police get here, I told him. Vanessa rounded on him suddenly. Go. He blinked. What? Go, Lucas. I drove you here. I said go. His face hardened. You're letting him do this to you. No, she said, voice shaking. I'm seeing what I did. Lucas stared at her, then laughed. No humor in it at all. Good luck with that. He got back in the car and drove off. Vanessa watched until his car disappeared, then turned back to me, undone in a way I'd never seen. I don't know how to fix this, she whispered. You don't. You can become better someday. You can be accountable. You can maybe rebuild something with Noah if he wants that. But you don't fix this marriage. She shook her head. You don't mean that. I've never meant anything more. Her suitcase stood beside her like a verdict. I went back inside and closed the door. She stayed on the porch for 17 minutes. The camera caught all of it. That night, once Noah was asleep, I sat at the kitchen table and went through the household accounts. Removed Vanessa from the car insurance. Separated out the automatic payment for her SUV. Changed the beneficiary on my life insurance from her to a trust for Noah. Revoked her access to the education account. Pulled every transfer to her parents, every payment covering Mason, every charge tied to Lucas, including hotel valet fees from nights she'd claimed she was sleeping at the hospital. An email came in from Maya. Hospital review moved up. Medical board opening a formal inquiry. I read it twice. Then another email from an entertainment news account. Subject line, thought you should see this before it posts. Attached was a photo, Lucas Mercer, leaving a downtown hotel with a blonde woman who definitely wasn't Vanessa. Timestamp, the night after she lost her emergency scheduling privileges. I sat with it for a long time. Then I forwarded it to Maya, not to hurt Vanessa, but because evidence has a habit of showing up right when people think consequences only happen to other people. The St. Catherine's Healing Hands Gala was supposed to be Vanessa's night. She'd chaired the fundraiser for 3 years running. Knew exactly how to stand under warm lights and talk about sacrifice in a voice that made donors reach for their checkbooks. Knew how to make medicine sound sacred and expensive at once. I'd bought my tux for that gala 5 years earlier. Vanessa had said it made me look less like a software guy, then laughed when I didn't find it funny. This year I wasn't her guest. I was Maya's. The medical board inquiry had turned the gala into dangerous ground for the hospital. Nothing public yet, but privately. Seating charts shifted, invitations changed hands, and board members who used to greet Vanessa with cheek kisses now smiled at her the way you smile at a wet floor sign. Maya had been invited by a donor focused on patient safety, and I came along as her plus one, someone who could explain audit systems in plain English. Vanessa saw me the second I walked in. She stood near the stage in a silver dress, hair swept up, diamond earrings catching the light. Old habit made me register, for just a second, how beautiful she was. Then I remembered Noah in a hospital bed asking if he mattered less than Lucas's hand. Beauty stopped mattering. Lucas stood beside her, of course. His bandage had been swapped for a sleek black brace. He held a champagne glass in his good hand, leaning in close as photographers moved through the room. To anyone without context, they looked like two people who'd survived something together. Vanessa crossed the ballroom toward me. "Why are you here?" "Patient safety panel." Her eyes flicked to Maya. "This is harassment." "It's a fundraiser," Maya said, smiling. "You're trying to ruin me publicly." I looked around the room. "No, you did the private part all on your own." Lucas joined us. "Bold choice, Adrian. Showing up somewhere people actually respect your wife." "Bold choice, Lucas," Maya said pleasantly. "Showing up beside a surgeon under investigation for prioritizing your care." His smile thinned. Vanessa gripped his arm. "Don't." I noticed that. So did Maya. The evening moved through cocktails, dinner, speeches. Vanessa was supposed to introduce the keynote speaker, but halfway through the salad course, a board member took the podium instead. Due to scheduling changes, Dr. Hartcole has graciously allowed me to open tonight's program. Vanessa's face stayed composed. Her fingers tightened around her fork until her knuckles went white. Lucas leaned in and whispered something. She didn't answer. "That's not nothing," Maya murmured. "No," I said. "It isn't." The patient safety segment came after the second speech. Maya had been asked to say a few words on compliance and family advocacy. She never said Vanessa's name. She didn't need to. "Medical systems are built on trust," she said from the podium. "Trust that records reflect the truth. Trust that priority is clinical, not personal. Trust that parents aren't blamed for delays they fought to prevent." The room shifted, not dramatically. Nobody gasped like a soap opera extra. People just shifted, glanced at each other, glanced at Vanessa. Lucas stood up abruptly. Vanessa grabbed his wrist. "Sit down." He pulled free and headed toward the side aisle. For a second, I thought he was leaving. Then I realized he was walking straight toward the small press area near the ballroom doors. Maya stepped down from the podium and came back to our table. "Watch him," she said. A young lifestyle reporter lifted her phone toward Lucas. I couldn't hear every word from where I sat, but I saw enough. Lucas angling his body, putting on his public face. Maya's donor contact, a woman named Serena Bell, leaned toward us. "Is he giving an interview?" "He loves cameras," I said. Serena's expression cooled. "This gala isn't for that." Vanessa stood and hurried toward him. Too late. Lucas's voice carried across the room in the lull between speeches. "Dr. Hartcole saved my hand," he said. "People can twist that however they want, but she made the hard call when everyone else panicked. Great surgeons don't let jealous husbands dictate medicine." Heads turned. Maya closed her eyes for a second. "He really is a gift." I stood up. Vanessa reached him at the same moment I did. "Stop talking," she hissed. Lucas looked irritated. "Why? I'm defending you." "No," I said. "You're helping me." The reporter's phone was still up. "Good." I looked at Lucas directly. "Did you know Noah was waiting 4 or 3 when you accepted the reassignment?" "Adrian, not here," Vanessa whispered. Lucas smiled for the camera. "I knew there were multiple cases. That's how hospitals work." "Did you text Vanessa asking her to push your case ahead of his?" His smile flickered. The reporter's eyes widened. Vanessa went still. Lucas recovered fast. "Private texts are private. Not when they explain why my son waited." Maya stepped up beside me, tablet in hand. "To be clear, we're not disclosing any protected patient information. Mr. Mercer is free to discuss his own messages." "This is absurd," Lucas said. I turned to Vanessa. "Did you tell him Noah was assigned or 3? She looked at me. then at the reporter, then at Lucas. Her silence answered the question on its own. Maya tapped the tablet and read aloud. Message from Lucas Mercer to Vanessa Harcourt. 8:09 p.m. Van, please. My hand is my life. Push me ahead of the kid if you have to. Adrian will get over it. He always does. The ballroom went silent. Not the quiet kind, dead silent. Lucas's face lost all its color. Vanessa looked like she might faint. The reporter whispered, "Oh my God!" Lucas lunged for the tablet. "That's private." Maya stepped back smoothly. "And preserved." Serena Bell rose from her table. "Mr. Mercer, this event supports pediatric surgical care." "You don't understand," Lucas said. "I understand enough." She looked past him. Security. For the second time in under 2 weeks, Lucas Mercer was walked out of a building where he'd expected applause. This time there were donors watching. This time there were phones recording. Vanessa followed him 3 steps, then stopped. She turned back and looked at me across the room. Her face asked one question. "How did you get that?" I didn't answer. The truth was simple enough. Lucas hadn't sent it to me. He'd sent it to Vanessa, and Vanessa had her messages synced to the family tablet Noah used for homework. The same tablet I'd packed away after the hospital so he wouldn't stumble on anything painful. When I charged it back up, the thread just loaded. She'd never imagined consequences could arrive through a device she'd forgotten even existed. A board member approached her quietly. "Dr. Hartcole, perhaps you should step out." "This is my event," she said, shaking her head. "Not tonight." Something in her broke then, not loudly, not theatrically. Just a small collapse of posture, like the whole architecture of her public life had given out at once. She left through a side door. Maya looked at me. "You okay?" "No." "Good answer." My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. "Did you enjoy that?" I typed back. "Noah heard himself called the kid by the man you chose." She didn't respond. The next morning, the story wasn't front-page news. It didn't need to be. It was in donor inboxes, hospital board group chats, private physician networks, the one world Vanessa had always cared about most, professional reputation. By noon, St. Catherine's announced that Dr. Vanessa Hartcole would take voluntary leave from surgical leadership. Pending review. Voluntary, another soft word. At 1:03 p.m. The State Medical Board confirmed a formal investigation. At 1:22 p.m. Lucas posted a statement. Here's the continuation. In a difficult medical moment, emotions ran high. I regret any misunderstanding caused by private comments taken out of context. I forwarded the screenshot to Maya at 1:40. Noah asked if he could go outside. We walked slowly out to the backyard. He was in pajama pants and a hoodie, wearing the serious expression of a kid who'd been forced to understand too much too fast. "Is Mom in trouble?" "Yes." "Because of me?" I knelt down carefully in front of him. "No. Because of what she did." He looked at the grass. "Do I have to see her?" "Not until you're ready." "What if I'm never ready?" The question scared me, but I kept my voice steady. "Then we'll talk about that too." He nodded, then leaned in and hugged me. Not hard because his stomach still hurt, but enough. Behind us, my phone buzzed again. Linda Hart this time. "What have you done to my daughter?" I looked down at Noah, warm and alive in my arms, and deleted the message. Some questions don't deserve an answer. Vanessa tried to see Noah at school the following Thursday. She didn't tell me first. That was her pattern whenever a rule made her feel guilty. She treated rules like obstacles other people had invented out of cruelty. I was in my office going over a hospital compliance proposal when the school called. "Mr. Cole," said Mrs. Alvarez, the principal. "Dr. Hartcole is here asking to take Noah out early." My hand tightened around the phone. "Don't release him." "We won't. Not without your approval, given the documents you've filed. We wanted to reach you right away." "Thank you. I'm 10 minutes out. Keep Noah in class if you can. She's upset." I closed my laptop and drove over. When I got there, Vanessa was at the front desk, talking to Mrs. Alvarez in a low, intense voice. "He's my son," she was saying. I'm not some stranger. Mrs. Alvarez stayed calm. Dr. Hartcole, there's a court filing showing custody is disputed. Pickup requires written authorization from Mr. Cole or a court order. This is absurd. I'm his mother. And you're standing in a school office making a scene, I said, walking in. Vanessa spun around. She looked thinner than she had at the gala. No designer coat today, no jewelry, just a pale blue blouse and pure panic. You told them not to let me see him. I told them not to release him without an agreement. You're poisoning everyone against me. You keep doing things publicly, then act shocked when people notice. Mrs. Alvarez stepped back, discreetly. Vanessa lowered her voice. I just wanted to talk to him. You should have asked. You would have said no, because his therapist says surprise visits are harmful right now. Her mouth twisted. His therapist? You mean the woman you hired to make me look dangerous? Careful, I said. You're standing in a school office accusing a child psychologist of fraud because your son isn't ready to see you. She flinched. The inner office door opened. Noah stood there, backpack clutched to his chest. Vanessa's face lit up instantly. Baby. He didn't move. Hi, Mom. Polite, which made it so much worse. She took a step. Can I hug you? He looked at me. I didn't answer for him. He swallowed. Not today. Vanessa covered her mouth. Okay, that's okay. I understand. But she didn't. I could see it in her eyes. She was a surgeon used to measurable repair. Cut, stitch, close. Infection controlled. Bleeding stopped. Patient saved. Noah's wound didn't have clean edges like that. I brought you something, she said, reaching into her bag. He stepped back. She froze. It's just the space book you wanted. The one about Mars. I don't want it right now. Her face crumpled. Mrs. Alvarez looked away. Were you going to take me without telling Dad? Noah's voice shook. No, I just wanted. Were you? Vanessa closed her eyes. That was answer enough. Noah turned to me. Can I go back to class? Yes. He walked off without looking back. Vanessa made a small, broken sound. I waited until the office door shut behind him. That's why there are rules, I said. She wiped her cheeks. He hates me. No. He's afraid you'll choose what you want over what he needs. I need to fix this. You need to stop trying to force him into making you feel better. Her eyes sharpened through the tears. You sound so righteous, like you haven't enjoyed every second of punishing me. I haven't enjoyed 1 second of watching our child hurt. You took his mother away from him. No, I stopped his mother from taking him, while she's under investigation for a decision that hurt him in the first place. She recoiled. Here's the continuation. Truth had become a language she experienced as cruelty. Mrs. Alvarez cleared her throat gently. Dr. Hartcole, I think it'd be best if future visits are arranged outside of school. Vanessa nodded stiffly. Outside? She followed me to the parking lot. Adrian, please. Just talk to me like my husband for 5 minutes. I turned to face her by the car. My wife brought Lucas to our house after he helped humiliate our son. My wife tried to blame me in a medical record. My wife just attempted an unscheduled school pickup. Which husband would you like me to be right now? The one who knew me before all this. I did know you before this. I'm just realizing now that that was the problem. Her face hardened. Maya's turning you cold. No. Noah's hospital bracelet did that. She looked down. I opened my car door. Lucas is leaving town, she said suddenly. I paused. She let out a bitter laugh. That got your attention. Not for the reason you think. He says the attention's bad for his restaurant group. His investors are nervous. He told me we should take some space until the inquiry settles. A bitter breath. Smart man. Her eyes filled again. I ruined everything for someone who won't even stand beside me. I looked at her for a long moment. There was a time that confession would have pulled sympathy out of me. Maybe even hope. She'd finally seen Lucas clearly. She finally understood. But remorse that comes from being abandoned isn't the same as remorse that comes from love. You didn't ruin everything for Lucas, I said. You ruined it because of who you became the moment he asked. She wrapped her arms around herself. I don't know who I am anymore. I do. She looked up. You're someone who still thinks her pain has to be the center of the room. I got in the car and left. That afternoon, Maya filed the school incident as part of the temporary custody motion. Vanessa's attorney fired back within hours, accusing me of parental alienation. Maya's response was surgical. Mr. Cole did not alienate Noah from Dr. Hartcole. Dr. Hartcole's documented conduct caused the child's distress. We welcome a court-appointed child therapist review. By evening, word of Vanessa's school visit had made it through the whole Hart family. This time it was Linda calling Claire. Claire put it on speaker while I made Noah soup. Your brother is destroying Vanessa, Linda said sharply. He's keeping a mother from her child. Claire stirred the pot without looking up. Vanessa kept a child from his operating room. You people keep repeating that like she meant harm. Intent doesn't erase impact. You sound like him. Good, Claire said. Our family has done nothing but welcome Adrian. Linda's voice rose. Claire laughed so hard Noah looked up from the couch. Linda, Adrian paid your debts. Your son's gambling bills. Your kitchen loan. Half your lifestyle. You didn't welcome him. You invoiced him. I nearly dropped the spoon. How dare you? Linda sputtered. Very easily, Claire said and hung up. Noah glanced over. Aunt Claire is scary. Only when necessary, I said. He smiled for the first time all day. After dinner, I found a certified envelope from St. Catherine's in the mail. Inside, formal notice that the hospital's ethics committee had scheduled a hearing, and a request for my participation as parent and complainant. Attached was a list of preliminary concerns, potential conflict of interest, improper prioritization, inaccurate documentation, and potential retaliation against witness staff. That last line mattered. Emily wasn't just a quiet voice in a coffee shop anymore. She was on the record now. I looked through the window at Noah, carefully building a Lego rocket on the living room floor, trying not to bend it. Vanessa had tried to convince the world I was just a jealous husband. Now the world was starting to ask why so many people were willing to put their own jobs at risk to prove otherwise. The ethics hearing took place in a windowless room. Fitting sunlight would have made the place feel too forgiving. A table split the room in half. On one side sat St. Catherine's Ethics Committee. Physicians, administrators, a nursing representative, an outside patient advocate, a community board member. On the other sat Vanessa with her attorney, a gray-haired man named Thomas Vale who looked expensive enough to believe silence could be bought by the hour. Maya and I sat across from them. Emily sat behind us, visibly terrified. Before it started, I turned and said quietly, "You don't have to do anything but tell the truth. That's what scares me," she said. Vanessa heard her voice and glanced back. For a second, their eyes met. Emily didn't look away. That mattered. The committee chair, Dr. Anita Rao, opened with a calm rundown of process, confidentiality, patient safety, fact-finding. Here's the continuation. No one interrupted. No one raised their voice. That was the thing about real consequences. They don't always arrive like thunder. Sometimes they arrive as binders, timestamps, and people wearing neutral expressions. Thomas Vale spoke first. Dr. Hartcole is an exemplary surgeon with 12 years of service at this institution. The incident occurred during a high-pressure emergency involving multiple urgent cases, family distress, and incomplete information. Mr. Cole, understandably frightened for his son, interpreted a clinical prioritization as a personal betrayal. Maya wrote something on her legal pad. "We have to be careful," Thomas went on, "not to punish a surgeon for making a difficult call simply because the optics were painful." Optics. The word tasted rotten in my mouth. Then it was Maya's turn. "This case isn't about painful optics," she said. "It's about whether Dr. Hartcole used her professional authority to prioritize a former romantic partner over her own minor child, and then created documentation suggesting the child's father caused the delay. This isn't emotional. It's technical, chronological, and corroborated." She put the timeline up on the screen. 7:43 p.m. Noah Cole arrives at the ER. 7:58 p.m. Urgent surgical recommendation noted. 8:06 p.m. or 3 assigned pending consent and anesthesia. 8:09 p.m. Lucas Mercer texts Dr. Hartcole. 8:11 p.m. Dr. Hartcole arrives. 8:18 p.m. or 3 reassigned to Lucas Mercer under her authorization. 8:42 p.m. A note reading parent requested additional time entered under her login. 8:49 p.m. A second note, father expressed distrust in surgical team. 9:03 p.m. Transfer request documented. 9:41 p.m. Noah Cole leaves St. Catherine's. The room went quiet. Maya played the recording again. Lucas could lose his career. Noah can wait an hour. Vanessa stared straight ahead. The emotional content of a hallway conversation, Thomas said, shouldn't override the clinical facts. Dr. Rao looked at him evenly. We're reviewing both. Then Emily was called. She took the chair at the end of the table and folded her hands so tightly her knuckles went white. Nurse Whitman, Dr. Rao said gently, please describe what you observed. Her voice shook at first, then steadied. She walked through it. Noah's pain, the OR assignment, Vanessa's arrival, Dr. Benson's concern, Lucas joking about whether the scar would ruin his filming schedule, Vanessa directing the reassignment, my demand for surgery or transfer, and the note entered afterward claiming I'd asked for more time. Thomas leaned forward. Nurse Whitman, are you aware that clinical prioritization is outside your authority? Yes. So you're not qualified to say which patient should have gone first. I'm qualified to say what I heard. And what you heard were pieces of conversation in a busy emergency department. I heard Dr. Hart say Lucas's career mattered. That is not what she said. Maya pressed play again. Lucas could lose his career. Noah can wait an hour. Thomas stopped talking. Emily looked at him, no longer shaking. Did you feel pressured after the incident? Dr. Rao asked. Yes. By whom? Dr. Hart asked me if I'd spoken to anyone. Said people misunderstand things when they're looking for drama. Then Dr. Keene's assistant asked me to write a clarifying note saying the department was just overloaded. Dr. Keene, sitting along the wall as a witness, went red. Vanessa closed her eyes. Next came the IT administrator, Daniel Cho, a man with the exhausted look of someone who'd hoped his logs would stay boring forever. He walked through the audit trail. Every login, every edit, every timestamp. The system doesn't judge. It just remembers. Was the parent requested additional time note entered after Mr. Cole requested transfer? Maya asked. Yes. Was there any record of Mr. Cole refusing surgery before that note was entered? No. Who entered the note? Dr. Hart's account. Thomas stood. Is it possible someone else used her logged-in workstation? Daniel adjusted his glasses. Technically possible. But the workstation was in the physician dictation room, and badge reauthentication occurred 43 seconds before the note was entered, meaning her badge was tapped. Every head in the room turned toward Vanessa. Her attorney leaned in and whispered something. Her face had gone blank, not an innocent blank. Then Lucas was called. He walked in wearing a suit that looked built for apology tours, his hand brace gone, replaced by 2 fingers taped lightly together. He scanned the room, found Vanessa, then finally met my eyes. No smile this time. Dr. Rao explained he wasn't required to answer anything beyond his own care and communications, but he'd agreed to participate anyway. He sat. Maya asked the first question. Mr. Mercer, did you know Noah Cole was waiting for surgery when you texted Dr. Hartcole asking her to push your case ahead of his? Lucas glanced at Thomas Vale, then at Vanessa's attorney before realizing neither one of them was his. Here's the continuation. I knew there was a child waiting, he said. A sound moved through the room. Vanessa stared at him. Maya kept going. Did you know that child was Dr. Hartcole's son? He hesitated. Yes. Why did you write, Adrian will get over it? He always does. Lucas, Vanessa whispered. He didn't look at her. That was a private message. That wasn't my question. He shifted. I was in pain. I was scared. Scared enough to ask a mother to move her own son behind you? I didn't think he was in real danger. You weren't his doctor. No. You were a patient asking for special treatment from a former romantic partner. His jaw tightened. That's one way to spin it. No further questions, Maya said, turning to the committee. Dr. Rao asked one of her own. Mr. Mercer, did Dr. Hartcole tell you she had the authority to move you ahead? Lucas rubbed his mouth. Vanessa's whole body went still. She said she could handle it, he said. That was the sentence that finished her. Not legally, not yet. But everyone in that room heard the shape of the truth in it. She could handle it. Not the emergency. Not the system. Not the record. Not me. Not our son. When Vanessa finally spoke, her voice was low. I believed both patients would be okay. That's not the standard, Dr. Rao said. Her eyes shone. I know that now. No, you don't, I said before I could stop myself. Every face turned toward me. Maya put a hand on my sleeve but didn't shut me down. I looked at Vanessa. You just know you got caught. That's not the same thing. Her tears spilled over. Thomas stood. My client is under extreme emotional strain. So was Noah, I said. He still waited. Dr. Rao called a short recess. Out in the hallway, Vanessa found me while Maya was talking with Emily. Adrian. Her voice dropped. I'm begging you. Don't testify against me to the board. I looked at the woman who had once held our newborn son like he was the whole universe placed in her arms. I'm not testifying against you, I said. I'm testifying for Noah. She flinched. I loved you. I know. I still love you. No. You love the version where I absorbed your choices for you. That's not true. Then why did you assume I'd get over it? Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. The hearing resumed 12 minutes later. By the end of the day, St. Catherine's issued interim actions. Vanessa's emergency scheduling authority revoked, her operating privileges under review, no access to Noah's records except through formal parental channels, and the witness retaliation concerns referred to HR and outside counsel. It wasn't final justice. But it wasn't private pain anymore either. On our way out, Lucas stood by the elevator, phone pressed to his ear. Tell them it's a smear campaign, he was saying. No, don't cancel the investor dinner. This blows over. He saw me and lowered the phone. For once, I smiled first. It won't, I said. His face twisted. Behind me, Vanessa heard it, and for the first time, I think she actually believed me. Family court didn't look anything like justice. It looked like tired parents, beige walls, vending machine coffee, and kids' drawings taped up near a hallway where grown adults argued over who'd caused the least damage. Our temporary custody hearing was set for 9 a.m. on a Monday. Vanessa arrived at 8:42 with Thomas Vale and a new family attorney, Karen Leith, soft colors, a voice designed to sound quietly wounded on her client's behalf. Vanessa wore no jewelry except her wedding ring. I noticed because I'd taken mine off the night after the ethics hearing. She noticed me noticing, her thumb brushing over the ring like she could pull the past back out of the metal. Maya sat beside me with a file organized so neatly it could have intimidated the judge on its own. Noah's with Claire? She asked. Yes. Good. Remember, family court isn't about punishing Vanessa. It's about stability. I know. Say less than you want to. That's usually good advice. Karen opened by painting Vanessa as a devastated mother whose husband had weaponized a frightening medical disagreement. Dr. Hartcole made a difficult judgment call in a chaotic clinical environment, she said. Mr. Cole, understandably upset, used that moment to isolate the child, remove Dr. Hartcole from the home, freeze her financial access, and build fear around a loving mother. Judge Elaine Porter listened without any expression at all. We're concerned about parental alienation, Karen went on. Noah has reportedly refused contact, but that refusal appears to be shaped by Mr. Cole's anger. Maya stood. Your Honor, the child's reluctance comes from his own experience. He was in pain, waiting for surgery. His mother walked past him to prioritize another adult. a former romantic partner. He then saw that same man at his home, at his hospital, and indirectly at public events since. Mr. Cole didn't create the fear. He responded to it. Judge Porter glanced at the file. I've reviewed some of the hospital materials. Are we expecting testimony? Maya called Dr. Priya Shah first. She appeared by video, walking through Noah's condition on arrival at St. Mark's, the surgical findings, and her opinion that any further delay would have been inadvisable. Karen tried to soften it. Doctor, Noah didn't die. Dr. Shah's expression cooled. That's not the threshold for appropriate care. I watched Judge Porter write that down. Next was Noah's therapist, Dr. Helena Price. Silver glasses. A voice gentle enough that everyone leaned in without meaning to. She didn't repeat anything Private Noah had told her. She protected him. But she explained that he now associated his mother with abandonment during moments of medical fear, and that unplanned contact could make his anxiety worse. Does Noah hate his mother? Karen asked. No, Dr. Price said. He's afraid of being emotionally responsible for her sadness. That's different. Vanessa started crying silently. Karen put a hand on her arm. Maya called me last. I took the stand and swore to tell the truth. She kept her questions simple. Mr. Cole, why did you request temporary primary custody? Because Noah needs stability, medical follow-up, and emotional space. Vanessa's tried to see him without agreement, including at his school. She also brought Lucas Mercer to our home while Noah was still recovering. Did you prevent all contact? No. I asked for structured visitation, guided by his therapist. Have you spoken negatively about Dr. Hartcole to Noah? I've answered his questions honestly, in an age-appropriate way. I haven't called her names. I haven't told him to hate her. What did Noah ask you after the hospital? My throat tightened. Maya waited. He asked if he mattered less than Lucas's hand. Vanessa made a broken sound. Dr. Hartcole, please, the judge said. Karen cross-examined carefully. Mr. Cole, you froze accounts, correct? I froze the joint credit cards after discovering that $12,000 from our emergency savings had gone to Lucas Mercer's care company. That transfer's disputed. No, the purpose is embarrassing. The transfer itself is documented. Her mouth tightened. You changed the locks on my client's premarital property after she brought Mr. Mercer there while your son was recovering elsewhere. Dr. Hartcole lived there as her marital home. Yes, which is why my attorney arranged a formal process for collecting her property and set temporary occupancy terms. Do you want to punish your wife? No. You're not angry. I'm very angry. So you admit that. I admit I can be angry and right about what protects Noah. Judge Porter looked up at that. Karen moved on. Vanessa testified after me. She walked to the stand like she was walking into an controlled breathing, straight back, serious face. At first, she held it together. She talked about loving Noah, about the terror of that night, about believing his condition had been stable. She cried describing the moment he'd rejected the Mars book at school. She said she'd do anything to rebuild what they'd had. Then Maya asked one question. Dr. Hartcole, why did you enter a note stating that Mr. Cole requested additional time before consent? Vanessa went still. Karen objected. The judge allowed it. I was trying to document the confusion, Vanessa said. Was it true? It reflected the fact that Adrian didn't proceed with surgery at St. Catherine's because you'd reassigned the operating room, because there were, in your words, multiple clinical priorities. Was it true that he requested additional time? Vanessa looked at me, then at the judge. No, she whispered. The courtroom went silent. Maya's voice stayed level. Why enter it then? Vanessa's tears came again. Because I was afraid. Of what? Of losing everything. Maya nodded once. No further questions. That confession didn't make her noble. It just made her clear. Judge Porter called a 20-minute recess. In the hallway, Linda Hart approached me, Richard trailing behind her, looking smaller than he had at that dinner. Please don't take her child away, Linda said, her voice raw. I looked at her for a long moment. Noah isn't property to be taken. You know what I mean. I do. You mean Vanessa should be spared the consequence because it hurts. Her face crumpled. She's my daughter. And Noah is my son. Richard put a hand on Linda's shoulder. Adrian, we didn't know everything. No, I said. You knew enough to defend her before you even asked. He looked down at his shoes. Mason stood off to the side, not meeting my eyes at all. Here's the continuation. For once, he had nothing to say. When we went back in, Judge Porter delivered her temporary order. Primary physical custody to me, pending further review. Joint legal custody, limited by an emergency decision provision. I'd hold final say over Noah's non-routine medical decisions. Vanessa would get therapeutic, supervised visitation, expanding only if Dr. Price recommended it. No unscheduled school pickups. No contact between Lucas Mercer and Noah. No disparagement from either of us. Vanessa lowered her face into her hands. I closed my eyes. Relief didn't feel like victory. It felt like finally being allowed to breathe after holding my son above water. After court, Vanessa waited near the exit. Adrian, please. Maya shot me a look, but I nodded. Public place, attorneys close by. Vanessa twisted her wedding ring. I told the truth in there. Part of it. You admitted the note was wrong because Maya put you under oath. Her face tightened. Why can't anything be enough for you? Because Noah almost wasn't enough for you. She swayed a little. I didn't reach for her. Karen Leith came over to guide her away. Before she left, Vanessa looked back. I don't know how to live without him. I knew she meant Noah. Maybe she meant me too. Either way, the answer was the same. You should have thought about that before you taught him he had to live without you. That evening, Noah and I ate grilled cheese at the kitchen island, because he'd decided soup was boring and sick people deserved melted cheese. Claire came by with brownies. We put on a space documentary. He fell asleep halfway through, head on a pillow, one hand resting near his healing incision. At 10:11 p.m. Maya emailed the draft of the financial petition. Separate premarital property, reimbursement claim on the emergency fund, division of marital accounts, termination of voluntary support to the Hart family, transfer of vehicle responsibility, debt allocation. Line by line, the life I'd built around Vanessa turned into something measurable. Line by line, I took it back. Then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. A photo loaded. Lucas at an airport bar, drink in hand, smiling next to the same blonde woman from the hotel. Caption from someone's social media story. Last night in town before the storm hits. Some people know exactly when to get out. I saved it. Not out of jealousy. For the woman who'd chosen him over our son and still seemed to believe he'd be there to catch her. Vanessa found out about Lucas from the internet. Fitting, honestly. For months, maybe years, she'd treated private betrayal like something manageable, as long as the public image held. So when the photo spread through local gossip accounts, restaurant investor group chats, and eventually the comments under Lucas's own apology post, the humiliation landed exactly where she was most fragile. She called at 6:12 a.m. I didn't answer. Did you know? Then, did you send those photos around? Then, Adrian, please. I need to talk to someone who knows the whole truth. I stared at that last one for a while. Someone who knows the whole truth. She didn't need a husband. She needed a witness who could make her pain make sense. I replied with one line, talk to your attorney. At 7:30, Maya called. Lucas's investors have pulled out of the restaurant expansion. Turns out one of them has a grandson who had emergency surgery last year. The gala clip didn't charm him at all. Good. Also, Vanessa's attorney requested mediation, custody, everything. I looked across the kitchen. Noah was carefully pouring cereal with the focus of someone defusing a bomb. Too early, I said. But we can respond with conditions. Full financial disclosure. Written acknowledgement of no unscheduled contact. Confirmation that Lucas has no contact with Noah. Reimbursement of the emergency funds. Temporary support terms. Do it, Maya said. Then, after a pause, how are you? Functional. That's not the same as okay. I know. Noah looked up. Dad, the cereal's making a mountain. Covered the phone. That sounds serious. It is. Maya heard and laughed softly. Go handle the mountain. Life carried on in small acts that felt almost offensive in how ordinary they were. Antibiotics, school assignments, laundry, insurance forms, grocery lists, court documents, Noah's follow-up appointment. The way he still checked the driveway before bed, and only relaxed once he was sure Vanessa's car wasn't there. Her life, from what I heard through attorneys and unavoidable public noise, wasn't ordinary at all. St. Catherine's placed her on administrative leave from surgery, pending final review. The medical board scheduled a formal interview. Her research grant sponsor paused funding. The gala committee quietly pulled her name from next year's chair position. Linda called Maya's office twice, demanding some basic humanity, and was told every future communication had to go through counsel. Here's the continuation. Lucas disappeared for 4 days. Then he resurfaced on a morning talk segment. The worst possible move for a man whose defense had always depended on staying quiet. The host asked gently about the controversy over surgical prioritization. Lucas gave a solemn nod. It's been a painful misunderstanding, he said. Dr. Hartcole is a brilliant surgeon. She helped me during a crisis. I never asked to be prioritized over a child. Maya sent me the clip with 3 words, we have texts. By noon, the clip that went out afterward had his own message stitched right into it. Push me ahead of the kid if you have to. The internet did what the hospital board hadn't. It stripped away every ounce of nuance, context, and mercy. Lucas's restaurant group disabled comments. His PR firm issued a correction. His investors put out a statement about parting ways over values misalignment. That afternoon, Vanessa came to the house again. Alone this time, she parked at the curb and sat there 10 minutes before walking up to the porch. I watched through the camera while Noah did homework upstairs with Claire. She rang the bell once. I opened the side door. She looked smaller, not physically exactly, but whatever force field used to surround her had dimmed. I'm alone, she said. I can see that. Can we talk? On the porch. She nodded. We sat on opposite ends of the bench. The same bench where we'd taken Noah's first day of kindergarten photo. Back then, she'd cried into my shoulder after the bus pulled away and said, how do people survive loving someone this much? I wondered when exactly she'd forgotten the answer. Lucas lied, she said. He told the interviewer he never asked to go first. I saw it. He told me he loved me. I looked out at the yard. She gave a broken laugh. You don't even look surprised. I'm not. Did you know he was seeing someone else? I had evidence. Her head turned sharply. And you didn't tell me? I looked at her. You made him part of our son's medical emergency. Our home. Our court case. Your public defense. You don't get to ask why I didn't protect your romance. She took that like a physical hit. I deserve that, she whispered. I didn't say anything. I thought he saw me, she went on. Not Dr. Hartcole. Not the mother, not the wife, not the person everyone needed something from. Just me. She shook her head. He saw access. That was probably true. It also wasn't the whole truth. And what did you see when you looked at me? I asked. Her face fell. Safety. The word hurt more than I expected it to. Not love. Love too. But safety first. Someone who'd stay. Someone who'd pay. Someone who'd forgive. Someone who'd make the consequences soft. She cried quietly. I didn't comfort her. I used to admire you, she said. That's the part one keep coming back to. When we were young, I admired how steady you were. Somewhere along the way I started treating that like it was boring. Steady's boring right up until the room catches fire. She nodded, wiping her face. And when it did, I ran the wrong way. Yes, I want to see Noah. Therapeutic visitation starts Saturday. I know. I want him to know I'm sorry. He'll know that when sorry stops being about your need to be forgiven. She looked down at her hands. Her wedding ring was gone. You took yours off, she said. This morning. She laughed softly through the tears. I thought you'd react. That's the problem, Vanessa. You still think everything you do is supposed to move me. She closed her eyes. A car slowed near the curb. For a second I thought it was Lucas. So did she. Her whole body went tense. But it passed. She let out a shaky breath. He called me last night, she said. He wants me to tell the board I acted alone. That he never pressured me. Said if I loved him, I'd do it. What did you say? I hung up. Good. He texted after. Maya should have it. She held out a printed page. I didn't take it. Send it through your attorney. She pulled it back. Ashamed of me, right? There were rules now. Not because I hated her, because trust had died, and rules were what was left to run a room where love no longer could. Saturday's visitation happened at Dr. Price's office. I sat in the waiting area while Vanessa spent 40 minutes with Noah, the therapist present the whole time. I couldn't hear anything through the frosted glass. Probably for the best. When Noah came out, he looked tired, but not destroyed. Here's the continuation. Vanessa followed him out, eyes red. Noah stood next to me. Mom apologized. I nodded. How do you feel? He thought about it. Sad. Vanessa pressed a hand to her mouth and stayed quiet. Dr. Price gave me a small nod. Progress, maybe. Not repair. Outside, Noah asked for pancakes. We went to the diner near the office. He ate half of one and drew rockets on the paper placemat. Mom cried, he said. I know. Her eyes were mad. That was okay. She said it was okay too. Good. He looked up. Do I have to stop being mad? Because she cried? My throat tightened. No, I said. Her feelings don't erase yours. He nodded slowly, like that was new information, and an important one. That night, after Noah went to bed, I got the official notice. The medical board had scheduled Vanessa's disciplinary conference. St. Catherine's ethics findings would be submitted. Lucas Mercer had been asked to give sworn testimony about his communications with her. 5 minutes later, a text from Vanessa. Lucas is refusing to testify unless I say he didn't know Noah was waiting. I answered before I could think better of it. He already admitted he knew. I know. Then you saved the wrong man. I stared at those words for a while. For once, she was right. But she was still wrong about one thing. She hadn't saved Lucas. She'd only shown herself trying to. The final divorce hearing was on a rainy morning in March. By then, Noah's scar had faded to a thin, pale line. He was back at school full-time, had joined the science club, and had developed a strong opinion that pancakes belonged at dinner, not breakfast, because morning pancakes waste their potential. Vanessa had completed 8 supervised visits and 3 therapeutic sessions with him. He no longer flinched when her name lit up my phone, but he still asked if Lucas would be there, even though the court order banned any contact. Trust heals slowly in kids, slower than adults usually want to admit. The medical board had already made its decision. Vanessa wasn't permanently barred from medicine. Real life rarely hands out punishments that clean, but her surgical privileges were restricted. She'd have to complete ethics remediation, practice under oversight for a set period, and disclose the discipline to any hospital where she sought privileges going forward. St. Catherine's accepted her resignation from leadership and kept her away from emergency scheduling for good. The board's language was formal. Failure to appropriately manage a conflict of interest, inaccurate clinical documentation, conduct inconsistent with professional obligations. Soft words again, but this time they carried weight. Lucas Mercer's restaurant expansion collapsed. His investors walked. The network, considering him for a streaming food series, quietly shelved it. He posted one last apology video. Damp eyes, solemn voice, saying he regretted any pain caused to a family during a medical crisis. Noah never saw it. I made sure of that. The divorce itself was quieter than everything leading up to it. Vanessa and I sat at separate tables. Maya beside me, Karen beside her. No Lucas, no Linda, no reporters, no donors, no hospital administrators. Just 2 people ending a life that had once been real. Judge Porter went through the settlement terms. The house stayed mine as premarital property. Vanessa waived any occupancy claim in exchange for a structured timeline to collect the rest of her belongings. The SUV became hers to refinance or surrender. The Hart family debts were confirmed as not mine. No more voluntary payments, no more quiet rescues. The emergency savings that had gone to Mercer Recovery Services would be reimbursed out of Vanessa's share of the marital funds. Noah's education account moved into a protected trust, with me as primary custodian and an independent co-trustee. Medical decision authority for non-routine care stayed with me for 2 years, subject to review. Custody remained primary physical with me, with Vanessa's therapeutic visitation expanding based on Dr. Price's recommendations. No contact between Lucas and Noah. No disparagement. No surprise school visits. No using our son as a bridge back into a marriage that no longer existed. Vanessa listened with her hands folded. She looked different now. Not destroyed, not healed, just stripped of the certainty that used to make her dangerous. When the judge asked if she understood the terms, she said, "Yes, Your Honor." Her voice didn't break. When the judge asked me the same, I said the same thing. Then it was done. 12 years, reduced to signatures, orders, and stamped paper. People say divorce feels like failure. That day, it felt like a locked door between my son and the worst night of his life. Outside the courtroom, Vanessa asked for 1 minute. Maya looked at me. Public hallway. I nodded. Vanessa stood near the window, rain streaking the glass behind her. "I'm not going to ask you to come back," she said. "Good." A sad smile touched her mouth. "I deserve that." I waited. She looked down at the folder in her hands. "I used to think the worst thing that could happen would be losing my career. It wasn't." She looked up at me. It was Noah asking, during visitation, whether I'd leave if Lucas called. I didn't say anything. "He asked it so calmly," she whispered, "like he just needed to know the rule." My chest tightened. "What did you tell him?" I said no. Then I told him I understood why he didn't believe me yet. That was the first thing she'd said in months that didn't make me want to correct it. "That was the right thing to say," I said. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Maybe she'd finally learned that tears weren't currency anymore. "I'm sorry, Adrian." "I know. I don't expect forgiveness." "Good." She nodded. "Do you hate me?" I actually thought about it. I thought about Noah's fingers digging into mine in the ER. About her voice saying he could wait. About Lucas smiling from the gurney. False notes, frozen accounts, school offices, courtrooms, and the slow work of rebuilding a kid's sense of safety. Then I thought about our first tiny apartment. Her head on my shoulder. Noah's first laugh. The aquarium photo we still kept. "No," I said. "I don't hate you." Something like relief crossed her face. I finished the sentence. "I just don't trust you with my life anymore." The relief disappeared, but she accepted it. "Will you tell Noah I love him?" "No." She looked startled. "You'll tell him yourself when he's ready to hear it. And you'll accept whatever he does with that." She nodded slowly. "Okay." I turned to go. "Adrian." I stopped. "Did you ever almost stay?" It was an honest enough question that it deserved an honest answer. "Yes." Her breath caught. "On the porch," I said, "when you showed up with the suitcase. For about 3 seconds, I wanted to open the door and pretend we could survive it." "What stopped you?" "Noah saw Lucas at the curb." She closed her eyes. That was the whole truth of it. Maybe love could have argued its way past betrayal. Maybe history could have wrestled pride to the ground. Maybe exhaustion could have disguised itself as mercy. But my son's face in that window ended every almost, before it could go any further. "I'll regret that night forever," Vanessa whispered. "I hope you do something useful with it." Then I walked away. Noah was waiting at Claire's apartment when I came to pick him up. He'd built a model rocket out of cardboard tubes and tape. It leaned badly to one side. He insisted that made it a prototype. "Is it over?" he asked. I knelt down in front of him. "The divorce is final." He took that in with serious eyes. "Does that mean Mom can't come home?" "She won't be living with us." He nodded. "But I still see her at Dr. Price's?" "Yes, if you want to keep doing that." He thought about it. "I think I do, just not a lot yet." "That's okay." I looked at him. "Are you sad?" "Yes." "Are you happy?" I smiled a little. Also yes. He frowned. That's confusing. Most true things are. He considered that, then handed me the crooked rocket. This is for your office. I'm honored. It might fall over. I'll let it. That evening we went home. It was quieter without Vanessa's shoes lined up in the mudroom, without her surgical journal on the coffee table, without that constant low hum of maintaining a life someone else treated as ordinary because she'd never seen the work underneath it. But quiet wasn't empty anymore. It was safe. Noah had pancakes for dinner, because some traditions deserved to start at odd hours. Claire came over and burned the first batch. Noah declared them space rocks and ate one anyway. We laughed hard enough that he had to hold his side and tell us to stop before he exploded. After he went to bed, I stood in the hallway outside his room and listened to him breathe. A year earlier, that sound had just been background noise. Now it was proof. My phone buzzed once. A message from Vanessa. Thank you for taking care of him when I failed. I read it twice, then turned the phone face down. There was nothing to say back. Some apologies aren't invitations. Some regrets aren't doors. Some messages just deserve silence. Not because you're cruel, but because you've finally stopped feeling responsible for bandaging every wound that isn't yours to fix. In my office, I set Noah's crooked rocket next to the monitor. It leaned immediately. I let it stay that way. The next morning I drove Noah to school. The rain had cleared. Sunlight cut through the clouds in pale strips, turning the wet road almost silver. At the drop-off line he unbuckled, then paused. Dad. Yeah. If I get sick again, you'll be there? The question still hurt. Maybe it always would. I turned in my seat and looked at him. Really looked, the way he searched my face every time, checking for the kind of promise adults sometimes hand out too easily. Every time, I said. He nodded. Okay. He climbed out, backpack bouncing against his shoulders, and halfway to the door he turned and waved. I waved back. No dramatic music. No perfect ending. No sudden new love waiting around the corner. Just my son, walking into school under a clear sky, believing, a little more than he had yesterday, that someone would come when he called. That was enough. Vanessa had chosen the man she thought mattered most. I chose the child who always did. And for the first time in a long time I drove away without looking back.